Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex. And ever since I released that first Black Widow level 80 video trashing her, I got a lot of replies, a lot of DMs and messages saying that I wasn't playing Black Widow correctly and that she's actually really strong once you use the right rotation, or, you know, that I was, whatever, exaggerating. Something was wrong with my build or my run, and Black Widow was actually amazing. So I wanted to cover this in a video because it's really interesting. That there are actually some things that I did wrong in the video, and I wanted to highlight those. But also, I think that the community's the community's gauge of a character isn't always the same as mine, and that's okay. That's fine. The community doesn't have to gauge characters the way that I do, but it's something to look out for because it does give you a pretty good insight into how people rate characters and how you can come to such drastically different conclusions about characters with just a few changes. So here we're back on stage 40 of Gorr, excuse me, not Null. But you can notice that I'm using a completely different rotation this time around. So I'm using a rotation that ends on 3 rather than beginning on 3. And for those of you wondering if I'm missing all of my procs, I'm not, because I'm using a CTP of Rage. So not only have we changed from a CTP of Energy to a CTP of Rage, we've also augmented the rotation. And the reason for that is, at least with a Rage CTP, it seems to do more damage. It seems to do more damage, it seems to do better damage. So we basically cancel everything onto 3, and then let 3 play out with a long animation here. So we do 2, cancel 1, cancel 4, cancel 5, cancel 3, and that is where the damage comes from. The damage does seem to be a bit more consistent, for sure. So I will concede that this is a better rotation if you are using a CTP of Energy, or sorry, using a CTP of Rage, and if you can deal with the CTP of Energy's timing, which is admittedly probably quite difficult with this type of rotation, then you could maybe use a CTP of Energy with her. But otherwise, I think this rotation just has too many hits before the proc skill, which would be 3. So I think this rotation is probably not usable with a CTP of Energy or a Mighty Destruction or something like that. But with a Rage, it definitely does work. However, there are still problems with the character, and the problems are namely her survivability. Even with not only Echo lead, but also with Wave, you can see that she is taking so much damage. It's actually bonkers. She takes so much damage. She gets hit so easily. She's easily way less tanky than Miss Marvel, and that's pretty scary and pretty crazy for a character that is not only tier 3, but also level 80. So I think that's a big issue that you can't really solve with a different rotation, because she would have died there 100%, because that's, you know, that's just not going to solve things. Here we're not going to do the whole run, but I just wanted to illustrate, like, there, I'm dead. I was on death's door for more than half of that fight. So while we may have a better rotation for damage for a CTP of Rage, we still have the same issue where her survivability is just unacceptable. So that's one thing that I wanted to highlight at the beginning of the video, because I had a lot of people messaging me doing stage 9 of Ultron, or stage, you know, 24 or whatever, 19 of Null, like low stages. And they're, oh, you know, Black Widow's actually very good, Alex. I'm not sure what you were talking about. I think you're lying in your video. I have no reason to lie. I literally, there's nothing I gain or lose by hyping up characters or not hyping up characters. There's no Cynicalex referral code like in Fortnite. You know, there's really no reason that I have. So I just play the character and I just give you my thoughts, right? So the build is exactly the same as it was last time. I've got a stage 12 Power of Angry Hulk. We have no artifact. We have a CTP of Rage. Just to show you guys how serious I am about, you know, properly grading Black Widow's performance, I'm going to spend my tokens, okay? Because, again, I think a lot of people just think I hate Black Widow for no reason. I really don't. I'm going to spend my tokens here, and I'm going to choose Black Widow's artifact. Okay, so this is going to give her an extra, what, 14% chance to dodge. I believe it's 14%, yeah, to dodge all attacks. We didn't get the right instinct. We also, the bonus instinct accuracy is pretty good. It could be like bonus instinct crit rate or bonus instinct crit damage. That would be better, especially at tier 4. If I ever take her to tier 4, I don't think I will. But I want to see if this is going to improve her survivability, because now what I want to show you, because you're probably wondering, you're like, okay, Alex, maybe she can't survive stage 40 Gorr, but like, I don't think any level 80s can survive stage 80 Gorr, stage 40 Gorr, not 80. And that's where you're wrong as well. So this is what I wanted to show you guys here. I had one of my mods on Discord, who's also a good friend and a great MFF player. He recorded his run, okay? So this is Gorr stage 39, okay? He's using Ebony Maw's lead, which is going to be giving... It's going to be giving Thor energy attack. It's also going to be reducing the damage Thor takes from Gorr by 30% and increasing the damage he deals to Gorr by 30% because Gorr is universal. So Ebony Maw is a very good leadership passive support for this stage. However, Null isn't adding much. Null, I think, is like a team-up bonus with Thor. The main thing to note here is that this is probably a pretty similar setup to what I gave my Black Widow with both Echo lead and Wave support, because Wave has like a 15 or a 20% reduced damage from supervillains, and then Echo's giving the debuff lead and 60% increase all defense, right? And then of course offensively my team was probably better than that team there. Now, there's no discount, there's no penalty for attacking universals as a speed type, right? There's no damage reduction here, and Thor doesn't gain a damage bonus for attacking universals. So the typing doesn't really matter for offensive purposes. It may matter for defensive purposes given the amount of HP and things like that, but when you look at this here, he has 98,000 HP. My Black Widow, by default here on the screen, has 75,000, but I actually have more energy attack. Anyway, or physical attack versus energy attack. Anyways, the whole point of the video is to say that although his build is a little bit better on his Thor, it's a mighty judgment rather than just a regular CTP. The rest of the stats, the defensive stats, the HP, the attack stats, are all the same as my Black Widow or lower. And that's considering that's taking into account that speed types have lower base stats than universal types. So generally speaking, with the same build, Thor, if you have the same cards, Thor should have higher stats. However, my cards are just a little bit better than Leo's cards, okay? We both have 25% Pierce, so that's not an issue here. But as you can see, Thor doesn't really, we can fast forward ahead, Thor never really loses more than half of his HP, and he remains so much tankier. So this was a run that I asked Leo to do on a whim on like a Thursday afternoon, and he pumped this video out in 5 minutes, which means he did one run. Now, the run is pretty close. He ends up having about 40 seconds left at the end of the fight. But as you can see here, he's always, or almost always, at max HP. So yes, other level 80s can definitely do higher stages of Gorr, similar to the stage that we're asking Black Widow to do. But Black Widow's just struggling massively, only going up one stage, but having this much more trouble is insane. And I'll show you guys a screenshot of the best run that I had with Black Widow, where she died and I had about 45 seconds left and Gorr still had HP. So even on my best run thus far, Black Widow is still not only unable to kill Gorr in the same amount of time as Thor, but she dies anyways. So it's really a matter of more than that. And again, I know I could make Black Widow look a lot better. Here's the thing, guys. I could make Black Widow look a lot better versus other bosses. If I put her up against Null, if I put her up against some of the other World Boss Legends, I'll make her look amazing. Of course, I know that. But that's not the point, because you have Miss Marvel for that, right? Why would you invest more resources into a character when you already have a better alternative in Miss Marvel, who is cheaper and does the same thing, actually does better, right? You don't need an artifact. You don't need level 72. You don't need to waste any other tier 3 materials. And you're just ready to go. And you know what's even better about that? She costs combat books instead of speed books. So if you wanted to tier 3 a speed type like Spider-Man or whatever, you have that option. So I just really don't see the point in dragging it out with Black Widow if the reality of the situation is that we have better options available to us already. I don't think she's dodging that much here. That hit, I got hit by accident. Like, that wasn't supposed to happen. I was just, you know, my hand was off the phone. I was scratching my chest. All right, guys. But yeah, this doesn't seem to be that much better. So I fear for my tokens here that I wasted them. But let's go ahead and see here what we can do. All right. This damage is good. Okay, I do like this rotation better, where we end on 3. I just want to make sure that people understand that this rotation is only doable if you have a rage. I don't think this rotation would be very fun or very effective if you have just a regular obelisk or a CTP of energy or a mighty destruction. Don't think you're going to have fun with this rotation. I'm kind of ad-libbing it right now because we don't have the skills up. to do the right attacks, but we're gonna see here. Like, I don't want to have to dodge, man. I know it seems like a luxury, but a lot of level 80s are really good because you can just face tank. You can't face tank with Black Widow because she'll just die. Right? Okay. All right, let's see how this goes. Yeah, so with Black Widow, I mean, she may be better at tier 4. The thing is, there are players who have already tier 4'd her, but I haven't heard any good things about her at tier 4. We had a lot of players rush her to tier 4 for PvP. Why was my tier 3 not built up? That was really weird. Okay. We were going to die there if we didn't use the co-op skill. We might die here to this. Yeah, okay. She's like consistently at half or less HP. Like consistently. Like, look at this, man. This is not good. There's no planet where this is good. And of course you can avoid this by playing easier world boss legends. But that's not really the point of the comparison, right? Again, we would have died there if we didn't use the co-op skill. And I get that some people can't test this high stage of Gorr. I totally understand that, so I don't mean to sound dumb by expecting people to be doing stage 40 Gorr. I paid crystals to unlock Gorr. I paid crystals to skip ahead to higher stages. We're not going to be able to clear this, by the way, guys. I know now we can't. We were supposed to kill him before he went into this phase again. If you have to do 2 minion phases, you're probably not doing enough damage to kill the minions. But anyways, we'll soldier on and see how close we can get without dying. The key with Black Widow is not to die. But yeah, I mean, like, why wouldn't I compare her at level 80? Why wouldn't I compare her to other level 80s in Gorr, right? Because Gorr is the newest world boss legend. You want to compare these characters to the newest thing, not to Null, who's like over a year old, right? It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, with only a minute left, I don't think we can clear this anymore. We lost, like I said, about 40 seconds, or like you saw, about 40 seconds from that phase. I definitely could have killed him if I'd gotten a bit better RNG on his movement. I could have killed him before the second minion phase because the sword bar was filling up quite slowly. But the thing is, right, there's different ways of playing characters in MFF, and one of those ways is offensively, and one of those ways is defensively. And now, when you play a character offensively, aggressively, you basically have to compensate for... Like, you basically have to be able to compensate in some way for their lack of defenses. Either they have lots of healing, or they have some other mechanic that allows you to play really aggressively. Like Hulk, right? If you can't play aggressively, here's the important thing. If you can't play aggressively, then you have to play defensively. And if you have to play defensively, then you're going to lose a lot of time to having to play defensively, right? That's just the way that it goes. And that's, I think, the reality of Black Widow, that you... Like, look at this, man. I go in for one attack, I'm dead. Like, sure, I could have switched characters there, and she could have survived, but then I would run out of time. So this is really the issue that I'm seeing with Black Widow that doesn't make her worthwhile, right? You have to compensate for the character so much by dodging and skipping rotations and delaying and delaying and delaying that it just doesn't make it worth it anymore. Of course, if you take her up against stage 30 or 40 Null, you're not going to see that because Null does way less damage than Gorr, right? And if you take her up against Mephisto, she has a damage reduction against Mephisto because he's a blast type. So of course you're not going to see these things as much. But then when you face these other bosses like Ultron doesn't even do that much damage outside of his optimization. If you see against Gorr, basically Black Widow is suffering from the same problem, in my opinion, as Storm, but her problem is more pronounced because Storm had a huge damage bump. I don't see Black Widow's damage bump as that good compared to Storm. Like, Kamala is as good as Black Widow, or almost as good. There isn't a tier 3 or transcended level 70 mutant who's even close, right? Iceman is the closest to Storm, and even he's not that close. But Storm's issue is she takes so much damage. Black Widow, same thing. And honestly, even with the artifact, I'm not really seeing the dodge. It didn't really feel like she was dodging that much more often. So on the one hand, I may have wasted my tokens. On the other hand, I may have saved people from using their tokens. I would not get her artifact unless you're going to tier 4 her. That's a different story, because then you're going to get bonus dodge with that 0.3% of total instinct. That 0.3 is going to be multiplied, or you're going to take 3,500 and multiply that by 0.003, and you're going to get an extra 10%, 10.5% in dodge. So that 14% is going to jump up to about 25%. That's very, very good. And then if you combine that with her evade mechanic on her tier 4 ability, you're probably going to be very well set for defenses. But again, if you got to tier 4 her to get the defenses, that's where I start to have an issue with it, and that's exactly the issue I had with Storm. Oh, guys, Storm's so good defensively. She has way more HP and defenses once you tier 4 her. Yeah, but I don't want to do that because the resource consumption is just way too high, right? We all know this tricky little mechanic here where you burn all your resources because you can't farm them fast enough. So yeah, that's my re-review of Black Widow. I displayed an alternative rotation, so you're definitely welcome to try one or the other. The base rotation with an obelisk or a proc would be 3 cancel 4 cancel 5, and then 3 cancel 4 cancel 5, and then splash in the 6 later. This one with a rage, you use 1 and 2 before 5 cancel 4 cancel 3, and then you're able to use the 6 skill faster, but you're only able to do that because it's a CTP of rage. Also keep in mind her aerial chain ability is very there's like a very long wind up if you didn't catch it in the gameplay, so you can't cancel it quickly. You have to wait quite a while. Like it's like a noticeable, a visceral second. You have to like every time, because if you try to cancel it too early, it doesn't activate at all, and then you don't get the percentage towards your tier 3, and then you can't cast your tier 3 every second rotation. So it's not the most comfortable rotation. It only works with a rage, but it does increase her damage a little bit, so I wanted to highlight that. But I still think that the problems that she has are too difficult to ignore, and definitely make her one of the least valuable level 80s in the game at this point in time. But that's just my opinion. Hit me up in the comments down below with your opinions. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you again to Leo for making that video so we had that comparison. Smash the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.